He didn't meditate. He didn't pray. He walked into the temple, looked the golden Buddha in the eyes, and tore it down. No hesitation. No explanation, just silence and the sound of holy relics shattering to the floor. The monks screamed. Some wept. Others stood frozen in fear. This wasn't a thief or a madman. It was one of their own, a monk who had once been their teacher, their guide, their spiritual rock. He sat down in front of the broken statue, crossed his legs, and whispered, "This is not the Buddha. This is your prison." What kind of monk destroys the very image of the one he's devoted his life to? Was he possessed? Enlightened? Or had he uncovered something we're all too afraid to see? Before you judge him, hear his story. Because what he destroyed might just set you free. He wasn't born into peace. Ajahn Khema came from a slum tucked behind a noisy fish market, where rats ran freely and mothers prayed their children wouldn't get sick. His father died when he was 5. His mother, too poor to feed him, took him by the hand one morning and left him at the gate of a forest monastery. That was the last time he saw her. The monks welcomed him, gave him food, robes, even a new name. He was grateful. More than grateful, he was devoted. But not to the rituals. Not to the incense. He wasn't looking for comfort. He was looking for truth. At 10. He memorized the Dhammapada. At 12. He meditated in the forest alone for 7 days. At 15. He was already teaching visiting laypeople how to calm their minds. He was what others called the golden novice. But there was a secret inside him. Even as he bowed to the Buddha statue each morning, he wondered, is this it? Is this really where freedom lies? In a statue, he asked his teachers questions that made them uncomfortable. Why do we bow to a form made of metal? Why do people fear bad karma more than their own anger? Why do they give more money to gold statues than to hungry children? At first, they smiled. Later, they avoided him. By 25, Khema had become a full monk. His sermons were packed. His mindfulness retreats drew hundreds. But deep down, he felt like a fraud. Not because he didn't believe in the Buddha, but because everyone around him seemed to believe in the wrong Buddha. They bowed to the statue, but gossiped about each other. They gave offerings, but ignored the poor outside the gate. They quoted scriptures, but couldn't sit still with their own thoughts. The temple had become beautiful. Massive Buddha images, carved wood, fresh flowers, donations in the tens of thousands. But to Khema, it felt more like a museum of devotion than a place of awakening. He used to sit behind the statue after the evening chanting, staring at its golden face in the candlelight. And every time, he'd think, this is not the Buddha. This is a mirror of our confusion. Still, he stayed silent for years. Until one rainy afternoon, something changed everything. He watched a barefoot woman with a malnourished child enter the temple. She tried to leave a handful of rice at the altar. A lay attendant stopped her, told her she couldn't offer food unless she paid the temple maintenance donation. She left in tears. The child looked back. Khema never forgot his eyes. That night, he didn't sleep. He just kept hearing a voice inside. You are part of the lie. The longer you stay silent, the louder it becomes. What happened next would shock the entire monastery. The next morning, he stopped bowing, not out of rebellion, but out of truth. He stood with the other monks in front of the Buddha statue. They bowed. He didn't. No explanation. No excuse. Just stillness. Whispers followed him for days. You didn't bow. Are you sick? Have you lost faith? He smiled. But inside, he felt something cracking. Not his faith in the Buddha, but in what people had made of the Buddha. He began changing small things. He stopped using a golden alms bowl. He replaced the temple incense with plain sandalwood sticks. He removed flower garlands from the statue each evening and laid them instead at the feet of sick villagers. The other monks called it eccentric, but they didn't see what he saw. They didn't see the way devotees stared at the statue like it was a god. They didn't hear the way they recited chants like spells, hoping for luck, money, marriage. They didn't notice the vendors outside selling blessed amulets next to deep-fried snacks. This wasn't a monastery anymore. It was a marketplace wrapped in holy robes. One evening, during a full moon ceremony, Khema was asked to give a public Dhamma talk. Hundreds gathered. Candles lit. The golden statue gleamed behind him. He stepped to the front, looked at the crowd, and said, "If you came here to worship the Buddha, you've come to the wrong place. If you came here to become the Buddha, stay." Gasps. Then silence. No one clapped. No one bowed. They didn't understand. He wasn't insulting the Buddha. He was trying to wake them up. But to those still asleep, a wake-up call feels like violence. That night, the head abbot summoned him, told him to refrain from confusing the laity, told him his personal interpretations were dangerous. Khema bowed and left the room in silence. But something inside him had shifted. He no longer believed reform would work. The illusion was too deep, the gold too shiny, the sleep too comfortable. Only one thing could pierce through it, a single act, not of anger, but of uncompromising clarity. And so, he waited. It happened on the quietest night of the month. No ceremony. No crowd. Just candlelight and crickets. Ajahn Khema entered the main hall barefoot. No robe. Just a faded cloth wrapped around his body. In his hand, a length of thick rope, knotted at the end. He didn't speak. He didn't chant. He walked up to the golden Buddha, towering, polished, revered. The same statue he had bowed to as a child. The same statue that now stood between people and the truth. He looked at it one last time and whispered, "Forgive me. I'm not destroying you. I'm freeing them." He threw the rope over its shoulders, tightened it, and pulled. The silence shattered. The base cracked. The statue groaned. And with a final snap, the Buddha fell. Gold leaf tore. Dust filled the air. Fragments of face, hands, eyes scattered across the stone floor. Then came the screams. Novices ran in. Monks gasped. A few dropped to their knees as if witnessing a murder. One elder shouted, "You've lost your mind." But Khema didn't move. He simply sat down in front of the rubble, legs crossed, hands resting on his knees. He closed his eyes, not defiant, not afraid, just still. Someone finally dared to speak. "Why? Why would you do this?" His answer came slowly, like a bell after thunder. "You loved the form and forgot the formless." You stared at his face, but never heard his silence. You memorized his words, but never tasted their emptiness. "I didn't destroy the Buddha. I destroyed your attachment to him." The room trembled, not from the crash, but from the clarity. Some wept, some fled, but a few just stood there, as if, for the first time, they were truly seeing. The next morning, the temple gates were locked. Police arrived. Journalists too. News spread like wildfire. Monk destroys sacred Buddha statue. Videos were leaked. Photos of the shattered golden face went viral. Comment sections exploded with rage. "Arrest him. Demon in robes. He should be disrobed and exiled." But Khema, he said nothing. They tried to question him. "Why did you do it?" He simply answered, "Would you have listened if I used words?" The council stripped him of his title. He was formally disrobed, banned from every monastery in the region. When the verdict was announced, he only bowed once, to no one, and walked away. No suitcase. No sandals. no regrets. He wandered into the mountains, found a cave not far from a river, and sat. Days passed. Weeks. Villagers said he had lost his mind. A few said he was possessed. But some, just a few, couldn't forget his words. I didn't destroy the Buddha. I destroyed your attachment to him. One former disciple, a young monk named Sati, couldn't sleep. He had trained under Khema for years. He remembered how Khema taught not through sermons, but through silence. How he would sit for hours, not speaking, yet say more than books ever could. So Sati broke the rules. He left the monastery at dawn and hiked into the hills. He found Khema sitting by a tree, eyes half closed, face thin but peaceful. No shrine, no statue, just wind and breath. Sati bowed low and asked, "Do you still follow the Buddha?" Khema opened his eyes, smiled gently, and said, "I never followed his image. I followed his freedom. And now, I am no longer following, I am walking." In the weeks that followed, pilgrims still came to the ruined temple. Some came to curse, some came to mourn, but a few came just to sit in front of the shattered statue. They said the silence was different now, more honest, more empty. The head monks tried to raise funds to rebuild the statue, but something unexpected happened. Donations stopped. People started asking uncomfortable questions. Did he really destroy the Buddha? Or just our illusions? If he was wrong, why do I feel more awake since it happened? The temple that once echoed with chants now echoed with doubt. And strangely, doubt gave birth to clarity. Meanwhile, in his cave above the river, Ajahn Khema remained silent. But word spread. Other monks, curious and conflicted, climbed the mountain. They didn't come for answers. They came to watch him sit, to feel what he had become. He never preached. He never quoted scriptures. But when asked, he offered koans, puzzles that pierced through logic. If you worship the finger pointing to the moon, you'll never see the moon. Is the Buddha inside the statue, or in the breath you ignore while bowing? Would the Buddha be angry if you broke his image, or would he laugh? One monk broke down in tears. I've been chanting for 20 years, but I've never felt free. Khema replied, chanting is the menu. Meditation is the meal. You've spent years eating words. Now it's time to taste silence. He pointed to a small puddle of rainwater beside the cave. Leaves floated on its surface. Then he asked, "Where is the Buddha?" The monk said, "I don't know." Khema smiled. "Good. That means you're getting close." At first, they called him a heretic. But slowly, the echo of his silence began to speak louder than the anger. A year passed. Then too, strange things started happening. Temples across the country began removing excess gold from their Buddha statues. Not all, just some. Enough to make people wonder, why now? A few monasteries stopped selling amulets. Some cancelled fortune readings. Others turned entire shrines into empty meditation halls. Lay people began asking real questions, not how do I get good karma, but what is karma when I stop clinging? Can I meet the Buddha without a statue between us? His story spread online like wildfire, not through headlines, but through experience. Someone posted a single quote on a forum: "He didn't destroy the Buddha. He destroyed the golden wall between you and the truth." It went viral. Millions shared it. Thousands wrote to the temple asking for the monk's teachings. The temple had nothing to send, because Ajahn Khema never published a book, never gave interviews, never filmed a single sermon. His teaching wasn't in words. It was in what he dared to lose. Students started climbing the mountain. Some came out of curiosity, some out of confusion, but most came because they were tired of bowing and ready to see. They found no statue, no ritual, just a man sitting under a tree, smiling, silent. Still, one woman, a corporate lawyer from New York, came and stayed for 3 weeks. She returned home and quit her job, opened a community meditation center. When asked what changed her life, she said, "A broken statue. And the silence behind it. The statue was broken, but the real breaking happened inside." Ajahn Khema's story is not about destruction, it's about release. Release from forms that imprison us, release from beliefs that blind us, release from attachments that chain us. He tore down a golden idol, but built a bridge between silence and understanding, between doubt and awakening, between the self and the true selflessness. In a world obsessed with images, status, and rituals, his act was a radical reminder: the Buddha is not in stone or gold, he is in every breath, every moment, every awakening. This is the challenge he left us: to look beyond what we worship, to see beyond what we fear, to find the freedom that no statue can give. So ask yourself, what statue do you bow to? What illusion are you holding on to? And are you ready to let it go? Because true enlightenment begins not when you build a shrine, but when you break free from one. The monk who tore down the Buddha statue didn't destroy faith, he awakened it.